TCI is brought to you by Spendthrift Stallion Line of David, a Grade 1 winner from the family of Mr. Prospector. Watch for his first 2-year-olds in 2014.
Welcome back to TCI, your inside track to the Triple Crown. Alongside Joel Cunningham, I'm John Siegel. Joel, before we talk about this weekend's races, let's take a look back at 2 races from last weekend. One of those are an allowance. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about the Rebel first. Strong Mandate in this race. You know, I'm watching the race. I said, man, this is setting up perfect for Strong Mandate. It's a sloppy track. We know he likes that. He got a good post position finally. He's on an easy pace. Joel, I was very disappointed in the way that he finished this race.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, John. I mean, second off the layoff, he actually breaks well, doesn't get in the trouble that he got into in the Southwest. And you mentioned it. I mean, as well as he won on that sloppy track at Saratoga, and I know sloppy tracks at different racetracks are different. I mean, some can get stickier than others and so on and so forth. But the way he romped in the Hopeful, we know he liked an off surface. And with that pace scenario, him up on it, and the way that track was playing all day, I certainly didn't think it was a taxing trip at all. At the 3/8 pole down the backstretch, I thought we were going to see a powerful performance from Strong Mandate. I really thought he would draw away from that group, but it was very evident, you know, on the turn that he was lacking run. I mean, it was just an even effort all the way around. I did not like his 4th place performance, but if we go now to the Twin Spires TV race replay, we'll look at the stretch run here, the Rebel Stakes. We hit the play button, and your group of 4 here entering the stretch here, and you see Tapiture. Obviously, there's an inquiry here. He's trying to push his way out. I do think he did come out and foul Opportunity, who just held his ground in there. So a fair win by Opportunity here. Tapiture also ran pretty well. This Tappett's love a wet track, John. But you see Strong Mandate here, fading here to 4th. And what I didn't like, you see him finishing on his wrong lead there. Once again, like the Southwest, he kept swapping his lead in the stretch. I mean, it was 3 or 4 lead switches here in the stretch. You see he's on his proper lead there, and he eventually goes off to his wrong lead again, his left lead finishing up. Just makes you wonder about this colt physically, John. I mean, he's not nearly as explosive in the stretch as he was as a 2-year-old. It was just an even performance with a great trip. I tell you what, I did not like it one bit, and that's why he suffers severely for us. I mean, he went from being a top Derby contender to where I've seen enough now in 2 performances by him at Oaklawn to where I just can't give him a pass for finishing 4th with that type of trip in here. To me, he is not as live of a Kentucky Derby contender as I once thought he was.
Well, I mean, let's take a look at the TCI top 10 here. I mean, I'm seeing that this horse has come completely off the list now. I mean, you were that disappointed in his performance. But I just want to ask you here, I mean, Tapiture, Joel, if we went back a little further into that race, you're going to see that horse had, I mean, a terrible trip. To me, he was much the best in this race. But I see you still leaving him there at number 10.
He was, and you know what? The Tappets loved the sloppy track, and he had an inside tracking position. I think the inside part of the track was better, John. They had the track sealed. We saw Right on Curlin there, who had inside position, finished well. His best race we've seen out of him around 2 turns in a while. He was a game 3rd there after putting Strong Mandate away. Same thing with Tapiture. Inside part of the track, and you're right, he was loaded for bear. I thought he was your winner on the turn, but took him a while to push his way out. Don't know if that affected him when he was able to make contact, but I do think he initiated it. Opportunity certainly had a wider trip, maybe not as good a part of the racetrack, and still was your winner, even though to me he held his position in the stretch, did not cause the fouling. He was bumped pretty soundly. So I have to give credit to Opportunity in here, but I thought both colts ran well. It was a similar performance from Tapiture to Opportunity, but when I see 4 horses finish there at the wire, John, you know, and I know you can see this on an off track sometimes where you just oddly run races, it's hard for me to give credit to really anybody in there. That's why you don't see Opportunity making our list. Tapiture was game enough. I'm going to keep him in on the 10 spot, not really moving anybody on the bottom half of our list. But Strong Mandate, you know, look, I gave Oxbow passes last year, and for good reason. You know, he was able to win the Preakness, and you could just see positive things in his races. I'm not seeing that with Strong Mandate this year for Dwayne Lucas. So to me, he is off my list.
All right, well, I'm going to see here, we already moved on to the next stage of the TCI top 10. And Joel, I got to just call you out a little bit here on social inclusion. I mean, he comes on new and you put him in there at number 2. I think you've been reading too many press releases about $15 million offers on this colt. I mean, I know he was very impressive in this allowance win, but Joel, an allowance winner. I mean, it's one thing when Orb did it in February. This is an allowance winner in the middle of March, and everybody's going Derby crazy. Now, I'm not saying he's not a good horse. It looks like he's a freak. But tell me, I mean, moving him all the way up to number 2 feels a little strong to me.
Well, John, we've been talking about it for a while now. Just the indication we've been seeing horses fall by the wayside, top billing. You know, there's a horse that beat Honor Code by 10, a horse that we were, you know, very high on. Cairo Prince, still a question mark about how far he's going to go, but certainly he deserves to be number one. But, you know, we talked about Strong Mandate as a horse we had highly regarded. He's off the list now. So it just is setting up for the type of year, like we said, like Bodemeister a couple years ago, to where these lightly raced horses can make an impact on this race. I know they're fighting Apollo. A horse like this is fighting a lot of the Derby curses. However, it just feels like that sort of year, and he was just so impressive. I mean, I understand that track is a major speed bias right now, but to make your second lifetime start, first around 2 turns against a horse like Honor Code, to beat him by 10 lengths, set a new track record. And to me, John, he wasn't all out at the wire to even do that. I mean, here's a horse with just a ton of ability. He's bred for 2 turns. He's not even bred to sprint. However, he broke his maiden open lengths, got a huge speed figure in there. But you look at that 106 Brisnet number, it's so above and beyond everything else. We look at the stretch run here, and you see here, and I know the track's carrying him around there.
Right.
Believe me. But Honor Code's not making a dent at all, and he looks like he's striding out okay. This horse runs away, wins easily. And I just think it's that kind of year. I don't know if he can handle other pace pressure. We're going to have to see. But to me, I just don't think there's that good a 3-year-old group out here right now. I just think he belongs in the 2 spot. I mean, other than Cairo Prince, those are definitely the 2 best talents I've seen so far. And he likes 2 turns. I'm putting him in the 2 spot.
All right, well, you're talking about the fact that this track has been speed biased, and please hear me. I'm not trying to take anything away from social inclusion. I mean, I think 15 million is a little strong for an allowance winner, but I think the colt is definitely talented. But this has been a speed biased track.
Sure.
It transitions us perfectly into this weekend because we see some horses who have decided to leave Gulfstream and explore other opportunities, and one of those is a Commissioner. You know, we're going to see this horse. He's going to run in the Sunland Derby, Joel, and I know that's on Sunday, but let's talk about him for just a minute.
Sure.
Do you really think that that was the deciding factor, is just to get him away from that track?
I do. I thought Fairgrounds made more sense because a horse like him closing down that long stretch, you know, Intense Holidays, kind of a second, third stringer for Todd Pletcher, you know, Commissioner, that, you know, they had to think that, you know, they're at least as good as Intense Holiday or somewhere in the ballpark. For $1 million, why not take a chance there? I thought that track fit him better, but they're going, instead for $800,000 at Sunland, they figure they're probably going to catch an easier field. But to me, that's another speed bias track, and they're putting the blinkers on him, and I think that's to put him into the race a little more early because he's going to need to be at this racetrack.
Yeah.
It's an easier bunch, but we're still seeing a couple Bob Baffert runners come down here with quality speed. Midnight Hawk, again, a horse that, you know, they run often, but to me, he's not a horse that, you know, is going to relish a 1.8 miles, but he still may be good enough to win this. I mean, we've seen a lot of sprinters, you know, run well in this race. You know, I can think of a couple Bob Baffert horses the last few years that turned out to be sprinters. I mean, Thor's Echo, your Breeders' Cup Sprint winner, won the Sunland Derby. So that track plays quality speed. I think Chitu is the other horse in the race. I think he's the horse to beat. Bob Baffert's horse on the far outside. You know, in my opinion, he just had quality speed in the Bob Lewis. Looked like he ran more to the AP Indy stamina side. And when he ran in the Bob Lewis, he was able to beat Midnight Hawk that day. So for me, I think Chitu can stalk or go the lead in here. A lot of quality speed there. I think he's going to be tough. But it'd be interesting to see how Commissioner runs because I thought this was a very intriguing move for them to put blinkers on and run him here.
All right, well, let's jump back to Saturday then, and let's talk about the Spiral Stakes. You know, Joel, I think that this race is most famous now for seeing Animal Kingdom in there. Tell me, what do you think about this field? We see some other horses that have decided to leave, you know, the tracks where they were at. We Miss Artie's coming here. He's going to run on Poly. Tell me, what do you think about this race?
You know, it's a bunch of Poly track specialists. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of horses coming from past Keeneland form. I mean, it's Solitary Ranger, who was your winner in the prep race last time, out a horse with a lot of speed, John. 1.8 miles the question mark, especially with him, you know, maybe facing other contested speed in here like Almost Famous. So I think it's a pretty good, you know, quality cruising horse. Almost Famous didn't break well last time, but he likes to be forwardly placed. And Unbridled Song, actually, if you look at the numbers, Unbridled Song has as good a synthetic track numbers as any stallion out there. So wouldn't be surprised to see him run well. But to me, it's going to set up for somebody off the pace. Really like We Miss Artie. He's the horse that won that Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland. And then Tamarando is going to be your favorite. Another horse that likes a 1.8 miles. Jerry Hollendorfer's bringing over. Those are the 2 class horses that are going to come from off the pace. Be interesting to see between those 2 who can maybe win, go onto the Bluegrass, make an impact, get into the Derby. But still, John, will they be contenders on real dirt? Their form says they won't be.
All right, thank you, Joel. Thanks for all your input. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you come back next week. We'll see how this weekend's races affect the TCI Top 10.